everyone, Carol here at Oak House Journals, and a lovely warm welcome from me to any new subscribers and also to my existing subscribers. Obviously a massive warm welcome to you guys. Can I just say that I am still surprised that people want to watch my videos and join me on my channel, and that really does thrill me. But the icing on the cake is the lovely, lovely comments that you guys leave me. I am so flattered and humbled by the comments that I read, and for all your encouragement and support. So I just wanted to say how much I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and how much you touch me, and a massive, massive thank you for everything that you do for me. It really is appreciated. So let's get on. Today, what I thought I would do is I would show you the basic construction of this little journal. Now, I've done a flip through of this, so what I'm planning to do today is just show the actual construction of the base, not the internal step-by-step decoration that I've done for the journal. If you watch the flip through video, and again, as always, all the information will be in the description box down below, you will see what papers I've used. And as you know, I used the Traditional Christmas Moments digital kit by Chapter 1, but you can see which specific papers I've used to decorate this. But what I will do is I will show you the basic construction, and I will try and give you some tips or heads up about the order to do things and some options for various things to make life a little bit easier for you. You always find, or I always find, that when you make a journal from scratch, you have your ideas, but there is almost a set order that you need to put your decorative pages on top of your base. Otherwise you end up finding that you haven't put stitching where you want it to be, and vice versa. So I'll try and do that and cover all of that with you. The other thing is, as you know, this was designed so that I could print my images two to a page and make the base out of sheets of A4 cardstock. Now, the reason I've done that is because the comments that I got when I made this little accordion fold one was that some of you were struggling to find cardstock for the base bigger than A4. I used strips of cardstock cut from an A3 sheet of card, and I know some of you have difficulty finding that. So I have a solution. If you still want to do an accordion fold like this one is, I have a solution for you to be able to make it out of A4 cardstock like this one. This one isn't an accordion fold, as you can see. This is what I call a simple notebook construction. All it is a single signature sewn into some cardstock. So I've got a solution, if you like the accordion fold base, that you can use to create this little journal. It will work equally well in whatever digital kit you use, providing you can print off two to a page. So I will show you how to do the workaround on this one at the end of the video, and again in the description box down below I'll put the time of when that starts, or you can just skip ahead, whichever is easiest for you. Okay, so let's get started with this little one. Right. As I say, everything is done using A4 sheets of card. I'm just going to pop this to one side, but I will be bringing it backwards and forward from time to time. So what you want to do is you want to cut 4 pieces of cardstock that is 14 centimetres in height by 20 centimeters in width. Now basically that is half a piece of A4 card. So you want to cut 4 pieces of that. Okay. The next thing you want to do is using another piece of A4 card. You want to cut a piece, let me get it here, a piece that is 14 centimeters by 28 centimeters, and you can still get that out of an A4 sheet of cardstock. So let me reiterate that again for you. You want 4 pieces that are 20 centimeters by 14 centimeters, like so. Okay, and you want one more piece that is 28 centimeters by 14. Okay, and that is it. Really, really easy. And that is what creates the cover. Okay, now I'm going to show you what the cover looks like if it's undecorated. Okay, so this would be our first page, the cover page. So let me show you. This would be this page here. Then when you open it up, you have 2 pieces. You have a centerpiece that we're going to create, and you're going to have what I'm going to term or call the cover piece. And let me show you, if I just unclip the paper clips, this is your front cover. So you've taken one of the 14 by 20 pieces, and you've taken the long one, the 28 by 14 centimeter piece, and from the left hand edge of the longer piece you want to do a score line and make a valley fold. Now the score line needs to be 8 centimeters to that score line, which leaves you with a piece. Yeah, my maths is perfect at the moment. It leaves you with a piece that is 20 centimeters by 14 centimeters. So if I fold that up, that is exactly the same size as all the other sheets, but it just gives you this 8 centimeter flap. Okay, and all we do to create the cover is you take that flap and you put it on top, on the left hand edge of one of your 20 centimeters by 14 centimeter pieces. And I'm just going to paper clip it in place. So if you've married up the edges, so the, let me think, it'll be the right hand edge on this piece with the fold, it will give you, let me show you, it will give you that. And that is just the cover. Okay. And what you've created here will be the first little tuck spot. And I'm going into the journal now. Dun, dun, dun. And that is what we have here. This is our tuck spot that we've just created by this overlap here. Okay, so that really couldn't be easier. So I'm just going to show you again. I was going to bring in that cut cardstock. So you are taking one of the 14 by 20 centimeter pieces. You're taking your long piece. You're doing a fold from, or a score line from the left hand edge 8 centimeters in, and you're just folding it back on itself. So you're creating a valley fold. Valley, because for those of you who might be beginners, the valley, you're creating a valley with your fold, like so. Okay, and all you're doing is you are folding that in on itself. So this is your folded edge, and you're putting your 20 by 14 centimeter piece on top, so that you have one edge against the fold. Okay, And again, all I'm going to do is I'm going to just paper clip it back in place. Okay. Now, we have some decisions to make. Well, let's start with the front cover first. What I did with my chosen pieces of digipaper from this kit was I printed off everything, 2 images to a page. And if you see, this is one of the full-size pages, and this is one of the A4 ones. You can see there is a slight border here. So that gives us a little bit of wriggle room. So what I did was I trimmed down my pieces. I got rid of any white border. And if you put it on one of the 14 centimetres by 20 centimetre pieces, like so, if you put it on top, it fits absolutely perfectly. So you can either stitch it onto your base if you want to stitch, or as I did, you can stitch it first. Now the reason I do that is because if I stitch that onto my front cover like so, you get all the best looking stitches on this upper face here, which is lovely. But when you flip over to the other side, you get the back edge of your stitching, and that never looks as neat and as tidy. Now, one trick, which I'm sure you all know, but I will mention it just in case there are any new people watching, or beginners watching. On your reverse, whenever I do any stitching at all, let me lift out one of the journaling cards. So here I've stitched on top, and this is my top stitching. On the reverse, as I say, the stitching is never as good. So all I do is I use my bone folder and I go in the direction that I've stitched, and I just work around my stitches and press them down. And what that does is it just pushes down any cardstock that has come through from the needle going through your card on this side, and it just gives you a better finish. But you might not want that showing through on this side of your journal. So what I tend to do is I will stitch round my pages first and then glue them to my base. So for this one, what I would have done is I would have stitched this first, and then I would have got it ready to glue on there like so. And then on the reverse, I would have taken a piece of text paper, because if I lift this across, you can see that that is what I've used inside here. So for that, I would have taken again another one of my pages, printed 2 to a page, and I would have stitched round that and then glued it onto the page like so, so that it hides any stitching of the base that I've done. So on every orientation of the book or the journal, you'll only ever see the nice stitching on the top. Hope that makes sense to you guys. Okay, now quickly for the cover. As you can see on here, what I used one of the vintage Christmas postcards. Now you can use any of them, or you don't have to use them at all, but that's what I used. And what I did was I took one of the postcards, and I've printed all of this out onto 160 GSM. I should have mentioned, sorry, this is 250 cardstock, and the reason I've used it is because it has you're not going to see in this light. I'm so sorry, we've got a dull day here in the UK, so I've got the lights on. But this has got a slight, very, very slight pearlescent finish to it. I really you really love using this cardstock. I have masses of it. I bought it years ago when I used to love making wedding stationery. So I love using it in either the white pearlescent or this ivory pearlescent. But the weight is 250 GSM, which if you put 160 cardstock on top, it gives a nice finish to it. Okay, so I printed this on 160 GSM, and as you can see, it doesn't have a border round it. So all I did was I took one of the other images and I just tore it with a ruler round the outside into two pieces so that it would just fit the postcard. But as you can see, I don't have an edge down here, so my other piece I've just laid on top like so. Now you do end up with a little edge there where you've got your top piece and your second piece behind, but that is partially disguised here when you put a little embellishment on the top. This side you can see it, but actually it's not noticeable by the time you've stitched it. So as you can see, all I did was I married that up and then I glued it all together with that in place, and then I put a row of stitching round. Now you can do that, or you can put it on your front cover piece and stitch it round actually to your front cover piece. And to be honest, I can't remember if I did that or I didn't do that. I think I glued it in place and then put the line of stitching round it. Okay, so that was how I created my front cover, and that's how you create this border if that's what you want. The other consideration that you need to address at this stage before you go and start stitching your base together is you need to decide what sort of, let me get my pieces out of the way again before I get into one huge muddle. What you need to do is you need to decide what sort of closure you want on your journal. Now you can do just a basic eyelet on through the front cover and through the back cover and thread your ribbon through that. That's one of the obvious closures. You don't even have to use ribbon. You can use chain with dangles. You know all the different ways to decorate. And by the time you've put your layers of cardstock, decorative images on top of your cardstock base, you can still use your crocodile to put an eyelet in and get a good finish. It's not going to be too thick, and as you can see, I've done one up here. But if you do want to put your ribbon all the way around like I have, what you need to do is you need to create your cover piece, and then what you do is you will put it on top of your base. But first you take your piece of ribbon, measure out a good length and put it between your base piece and your top cover like so. Okay, now to do that, what I did was I just eyeballed to where it was central, which was pretty easy because I think it works out at 5 centimeters here and 5 centimeters there. Don't quote me on that, but it's really easy. But you could just eyeball it. I mean, I've eyeballed it there and it looks pretty central. And to secure it in place, you could use Fabri-Tac glue or any fabric glue, Beacon 3-in-1. But what I did was I just ran a machine stitch line all the way along the center of my ribbon, and then once I'd created my front cover, I put that on the top and glued it in place, and that will hold it perfectly. There won't be any problem at all about that holding it in place. But there is another consideration. When you take your ribbon round the back of your journal, that is taking it across the main fold here. And when you come to stitch in your signature to the center of the journal, you will find that if you've put the ribbon round to the back and secured it in place, then you've got a problem, because your stitching will go over the top of your ribbon. And actually, I think that that would spoil it. It would give a fussier finish round this area here. So I think it's nice to do your stitching first and then to finish off taking your ribbon round to the back, which means that when you come to decorate the back of your journal and this inside page, don't put the images in place yet. Okay, let me try and explain that a bit better. So we have secured our ribbon underneath the front cover. We've done nothing else with our journal. We haven't done any stitching. Now, you would think that what you need to do is you would need to put that piece of ribbon in place and then get your second piece, which you've stitched all the way around, to create your back cover. But don't leave the ribbon loose and free. It's not going to get in the way, and it just means that the very last things that you will be doing with this journal will be to put your piece, your decorative piece, on this back cover, trap your ribbon down, and then put your main decorative piece on top here. So securing this piece of ribbon to the back is the last thing that you do if you decide you want to hide it like you've done on the front here and just have it peeping out here and here. And this is why I say, do what I say, don't what I do, because don't do what I do, because I forgot to do that. I got carried away with the decorating, and then I suddenly realised I wanted to sew my journal together, and I'd already stuck my back cover on. So I think it would look a lot nicer having the ribbon underneath the back cover like I've done at the front, but obviously I didn't do that. Now, if you're like me and you forget, not a problem. You can just put it on over the top and secure it with a line of stitching here. So that's one tip I can offer you before we go any further. I think I mentioned when I did the flip through video that if you find that you've got, like me, some lovely red satin ribbon that is absolutely perfect for the job, but it's stiff, what you can do is you can put this overnight in a bowl of warm water with some fabric conditioner in it. And here in the UK, that's something like Comfort or Lenore. And it comes out beautifully soft. It doesn't look any different at all, but it's softer and it gives a nicer finish when you want to come and tie your bow. So that's one thing. There are other options. Now, these are some Christmas ribbons that I picked up last year from craftyribbons.com. I was at the NEC in Birmingham and they had a stall, and I bought these lovely ribbons from them. Now, you could use something like this behind or on your journal if you wanted to. You don't have to use wide satin ribbon. You could use something like this. I almost used some green taffeta ribbon that I thought would be equally as nice. So there are options. The one thing I would say with these, as I said, I bought them last year before all this coronavirus situation erupted when I went to a craft fair. So I'm not sure if they still have these ribbons, but if you're interested, you could check that out with them. I'll put the name down below in the description box and leave the rest to you. Okay, so basically what you've done now is to create the front cover like so. Now you have to decide what you want to do inside. Now, I like to make life easy for myself. So what I did was I actually stitched my pocket in place. Now the joy with these flaps is you could decide whether you want a top pocket up here by just stitching those three sides, or like I did, have a tuck spot, side tuck spot here, or the side pocket, and just stitch these three sides. But you do need to stitch, and if you're not stitching, then make sure you've got a good strong glue, because either gluing and stitching, or just stitching on its own, is what will hold your cover together, because it's only at these points that that cover will be held in place. But that is perfectly fine. That will be enough to make it strong and secure. Now what I did with mine, I just cut a piece of the paper. Again, everything is printed two to a page, to get the size, the size to match the size of your journal. I just cut a decorative piece that was big enough to fit on this 8 cm flap here. And then what I did was I had my piece of paper, decorative paper, and I stitched down this long edge so that I would have a nice machine stitched finish to it. Then I glued it into place onto my flap like so. Then I took my front cover piece and I glued round these edges on my front cover piece, and then taking my machine, I then stitched round the flap piece whilst they were together. So I actually dealt with this separately, so you get a nice stitched edge down here. Then when that's glued on there, you can actually create your pocket by attaching it to the front page and stitch this edge down here. Okay, so that is how you create that pocket and decorate it. But you have another decision. This piece here I covered with a piece of the text paper, and I used this one. And before I did that, as I've said before, all of these I stitched round the outside. Now what you can do if you want to, and this is what I did, was before I actually glued my flap in place to the front cover, I glued this piece in place first. Then when I positioned my flap on the front cover and stitched it, my design went all the way underneath and into my pocket. And I thought that was just a quick and easy way to do it. It makes life so much simpler. Now, if you don't want to do that and you want to stitch your pocket first, what you're going to find is you are going to find that this piece is too big and you're going to need to chop it. So I think the way that I've done it, which is to stitch your page, then glue it onto the front cover, and then attach this flap, is by far the easiest way to do that. Okay, so that is effectively our first page, or cover, if you will, of our journal. As I said, with this page, this is the back inside cover, and that's the back. Leave those, because if you're attaching your ribbon, as I've said we're going to be, you're going to have problems if you attach that now. So forget about that. Forget it. You don't need to do it. And then for things like this is just a tuck spot that, as I said, I've taken from the paper. I've just found that piece and I fussy cut it out. I backed it onto a little bit more of the 160 gram cardstock, because just on its own 160 grams is fine, but it's not going to give you any great heft or durability. And if you're popping in cards all the time, it's going to get damaged. So I just backed it onto a scrap piece of 160 and chopped it out, fussy cut it out. And I have to say, when I stitched this piece of paper round the edge before I did anything else with it, I just put that in place first, glued it on the two edges here, and then stitched over the top of it. I really like gluing and stitching together. You don't need to. In the glues that I use, the art glitter glue and the Beacon 3-in-1 glue, they're great quality. They're very durable. Glues like the Collal glue, I find after a couple of months or even a year or so, you'll find if you revisit a journal where you've glued with that, it's just lifting off. Whereas I haven't found that's the case with the art glitter glue or the Beacon 3-in-1 glue. It's absolutely brilliant stuff. So that's what I would recommend. But as a belt and braces, I stitch over the top too, and that's more about doing a belt and braces, but more really that I like stitching. Okay, so that is your cover. Now let's go on to the next piece, because this one is slightly trickier, but not a lot really. So let me just clear my decks a little bit here. What you have left over from the two pieces that you've used are 3 pieces of cardstock that is 14 centimetres by 20 centimetres. So you've got three pieces. Now your inside pages are really, really easy. And I'm just going to take my paper clips away. And as you can see here, these are our 3 pieces of cardstock. So what you need to do is 2 of the pieces just lay down in front of you. Your 3rd piece you're going to fold. Now where you fold it is completely up to you, but these pieces will be pockets, so you want to fold it so that you are happy about the size of your pocket. And what I decided to do with mine was I wanted to have one pocket that was 107 millimeters, so 10.7 centimeters. So in millimeters, 107 millimeters, and then I did a score line and created a fold, which left me with 93 millimeters on this side. So overall, you've still got your 20 centimeters, and obviously it's still 14 centimeters. And what you've done is you've created a crease and you've created a valley fold like that. Okay, now this is the only bit that is tricky, and I'm hoping that you're going to follow this, because it isn't tricky when you know how. Take your folded piece, put your thumb on the fold, and where you've got these 2 pieces together, just laid out in front of you, take this piece and slide it underneath your left hand piece up to the fold. Okay, so you've got the 93 millimeter piece from the fold flapping around, and you've got this piece at the back here. And all you do is as easy as this, is put a paper clip on this top piece here. and a paper clip on this piece here. And this is your inside page. So by doing that, you have created a tuck spot here. If you open it up, you have a full page here, and you have a tuck spot here. And if you fold it over, you have a full page. And that, everybody, is it. So how tricky was that? Honestly, it's really, really easy. So let me show you in the journal. So that was our cover page, and we are now working with that page and that page, which is that page and that page. Okay, so this piece here, the connector piece, has created a pocket here. So that's our central fold for the cover, and which corresponds with this piece, and this edge here is this piece down here. Now I'm going to hold that up to the camera, because what I did was I used a single sheet of paper. So this piece here, can you see just in front of the stitching, doesn't quite match. If you look at that C here, you can see there's a slight gap just there, and that's my centerpiece. And then if you follow it down, you've got a slight gap here and just after the C and before the H there. So that piece there is the 107 millimeter piece, which is there. Okay, now when I stitched it to the page, I wanted to create a tuck spot. If I take that paper clip out, I wanted to create a tuck spot in and behind it, like so. So I stitched down here just inside the fold and along the bottom to give me that tuck spot there. Okay, and if I lift this over again and fold this back, this is that tuck spot. Okay, I'm going to try and lift the journal up and show you. That is the tuck spot. Okay, just there. Okay, now all I did was I cut a piece of paper. Whoops, let me show you again. I'm doing it off camera. I cut a piece of paper that was 107 millimeters, and I just glued it on the front cover. If you want to create this little pocket here, all it is a couple of pieces of paper that I have stitched around at the top, down here and down here. It measures, I think, it measures 9 centimeters. So I use the other side of this piece of decorative paper, and I measured 9 millimeters. And because the whole thing is 20 centimeters, you've only got a fraction where it doesn't meet, and it marries up really, really well. But what I did was, so you've got one piece of paper cut here that is 9 millimeters, not 9 millimeters. Oh, what was my measurement now? I've got it. 93 millimeters. And the one that you use for the back needs to be 10 centimeter wider, so that when you come to glue this piece down, you have a flap that you can put underneath. Now, I'm not making that very clear at all. I'm confusing myself. So I'm going to show you on this. Let's hope this is going to be. So this is my flap that we have created, and we're going to create a tuck spot behind it. So we stitch down here and along the bottom here. You cut out your piece of paper that you're going to put on the top, and if you want to, you can stitch round it first, and that's what I did. And then you would put it on top of your flap. So you have to imagine that that fits the entire flap. But before you actually glue it in place down this edge, you want to create this flappy thing. Now, to do that, you need to have a piece of paper that will go across the page like so. So that needs to be 93 millimeters. The piece that you use for the reverse side of it, like so, this piece here, needs to be a centimetre bigger. So if I just show you, you would have something like that. And then you stitch round here, and stitch the top bit. So you stitch those three sides, which leaves you with an opening here, which is what I've done there. And then this 1 centimetre goes under that piece on the flap like so, and then you glue this piece into place, and that's what gives you your flap here. And then when you fold it completely over, like I've done here, when you fold it completely over, you've got your tuck spot behind. Now, if that's all too complicated, sorry, I haven't explained that the best. If that's all too complicated and you don't want to do that flappy piece, then you can just stitch round there and make that into a top tuck spot. Or you could stitch across the top there and round the bottom and have another side tuck spot in there. So, or you can do down there and just have the tuck spot that I mentioned. The only thing that you've got to remember when you decide which of those options to go for is that this page here will go inside your cover. So it's got to kind of marry up with what you've decided to do there. So if you decide that this one you want as another side pocket, remember that you've already got one here on this side, which is absolutely fine. You might want that. I quite often do that. I quite like doing it. Okay, so that is that page. And then for this page here, you can obviously decorate that as you like. All I did was I got another piece of paper and I just stitched it round my page to create this side tuck spot here. Now in here is where you have your signature block. So all I did for that was I got a collection of papers and music paper and whatever you want, and all I did was I put them all together. Sometimes I stitch around the top edges or all the way around of my papers just to give it a bit of interest. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I rough tear them. Sometimes I don't. And all of these are little pockets that I've put on after the event or as I'm stitching the pages. But I just pulled a few together to create a centre signature. And how you do that and what you do is personal preference, really. Everything is really simple. So if you look on the flip through, you can see where I put pockets. Okay, so for here we have this pocket. This is the back. This page is this page. Okay, and our signature block goes in the center there. Now what I've done here is, as you can see, we've got that side pocket up there, and that is this one, which is part of our connector piece that we weaved through. So all I did for that obviously was machine stitch there, machine stitch there, machine stitch there to create that pocket. This piece here, this flappy piece, is just another one of those two pieces of paper that I put together, and the back piece is 1 centimetre long. Now, when we created the one that went under here, that lip was there and folded up. For this one, when you put your piece of paper on there, your lip needs to be on the other side, so it needs to be on the right hand side. And then all I did was pop it under there, put my decorative piece on top like so, glue it in place, and then you've got your hinge there and your pocket is at the top. So it's just a matter with these of cutting the backing piece 1 centimetre bigger than the front piece and creating the 1 centimetre lip. And as I say, depending on where you want these pockets to go in your journal, the lip is on the left hand side or it's on the right hand side. And for this one, it happened to be on the right hand side. And that creates this pocket. And the same arrangement as we did before, what you need to do is you need to have your paper in place before you do your stitching on this pocket. So that's the only thing to remember. So what I tended to find with mine is all these main backing sheets, like here and here, I just stitched round them first, and then they're all ready to go when you come to do these pieces. It's already stitched and you don't have to think about stitching it before you can carry on and complete your journal. So I think, oh, I was going to say, I think that's all, but not quite. On the reverse side here, this one, so you flipped it over. This is still working on the inside 4 pages. For this one, all I did was I put a piece of vellum across the bottom and some fussy cut detail, and that literally that was it. So when I had my backing piece, and before I actually stitched round, I just put a piece of vellum across the bottom, and then I stitched all the way round so the stitching holds the vellum. I didn't even glue the vellum, I just stitched all the way around, and then I just put my fussy cuts on top and then glued it straight onto the page. This was an easy one, you don't even have to think about where you glue it. And then coming to the back page, so what we've done is we have decorated the whole of the inside portion. And then this was our front cover, and we decorated the front and the inside piece. So I'm just going to pop that down like so. So this becomes our back page, and we haven't done anything with that. And the reason for that is the ribbon. As I say, the ribbon, don't forget the ribbon. All I did was I had my backing piece ready like so, and it was stitched around the outside, and I created this little envelope, and literally it was by taking one of these pieces and printing it back to back like so, and then all I did was I just folded it up and folded it down like so to create my envelope, and I stitched it on the machine so that when you open it up you've got text inside, and it just closes down like so. Very, very simple and easy, and as you can see, it just fits perfectly inside there, like so. So I created my envelope to go in here, and I just, once it was stitched, I just glued it to the page down those 3 sides. But still, this isn't glued in place, this backing sheet. all I did was I put the envelope on top of this backing sheet. It's not connected to the base. And the reason for that is because you need to stitch your central signature in place first. So you've decorated completely the inside portion. You've decorated the front cover and the inside, and the back cover here and inside you've not decorated them. You've prepped it, but you've not glued it in place. Okay, so you stitch your signature in place, and I used a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. And then once that signature is in place, then what I did, or what I should have done, is I should have put my piece of ribbon from the front across the back and done a central line of stitching. And then once that ribbon is held in place, you can then put on or glue on your back cover and your inside cover and finish off your journal. So I hope, everybody, that's not too garbled and you can follow the basic process for doing that, this little journal. And as I say, basically it is just 4 pieces of 14 by 20 centimetre cardstock, and then 1 piece 28 centimetres by 14 to create effectively just 2 cardstock pages, and the rest is just filled in all around it, and you put your central signature in it. So it's not a hard one to do at all, but it's quite a fun one to do. So what I will very quickly explain to you, and it's going to be very obvious to you now, having seen this, you are going to know exactly how to make an accordion fold out of A4 cardstock folded in half. So you can create this little journal as an accordion fold using pieces of cardstock that are 14 centimetres by 20 centimetres. And let me show you how. I mean, you're going to be ahead of me here, I know you are, in terms of how to do that, but I will explain just in case somebody is struggling here. Okay, so if you wanted to create an accordion fold instead of one like this where it's just folded in half, and use the same A4 cardstock, sorry, I've got a paper clip up there, what you need to do is you have your pieces like so, and you still have 1 piece that you make as a connector piece. Okay, so what you would need to do to create your accordion fold is you would take 2 pieces like so, and with your connector piece you can do, let's go for the easy option, you can put it like so, and that will create your first, let me open that out, your first piece. Now to get the next fold, which would be this piece down here, you would need to take another piece of cardstock, and you would need to use another connector piece and put it over the top like that. Okay, and then to get your next piece, I'm running out of cardstock here, to get your next accordion fold, you would need to put another piece like so, and use a connector piece round the valley fold. So all it is using your connector pieces, or this piece folded, as a hinge. Now you can do what we did with the previous journal, and you can thread it through so that you've got 1 piece that way yeah, on one piece that way, and it will give you pockets in various places. Or you can put your cardstock into the fold like so and have your connector piece round the outside. Now, you don't need to have these as pockets if you're doing an accordion fold. You could just stitch them to create your folds and to hinge it all together, and then layer on over the top. So you can have them as pockets, or you don't have to. You can just stitch them and decorate on the top, whichever you prefer. You can have your connector pieces round the back like that, so that if you are having pockets, they are all on the inside portions in there. They would all be on the inside or back of your accordion fold. Or, as I've said before, you can interweave them like we did with the previous journal, so that you've got a mixture of pockets on the back and pockets inside. So I hope you could follow that. You don't, the other thing I should say to you is your connector pieces to create your accordion fold, you don't need them to be cardstock. You could use fabric. And if you are using fabric, the only thing I would say to you about that is I would have fabric on both the inside and the outside of your folds. So I would put a piece of fabric up the centerpiece there, and then I would flip it over and I would put a piece of fabric up there, and then I would decorate over the top. And the reason I say that is because I think it would give you, depending on what fabric you use, I think it would give you better durability. You could use tape. I wouldn't recommend using washi tape. You could use masking tape or even a fabric tape. That would be better. But again, I would double it up. So if you're using fabric, ideally double it up. But you don't have to. It just depends on the heft of your fabric. It's a little bit difficult, that one. In terms of your cardstock, I would say use the same cardstock that you're using for your base. That would be quite nice, I think. I think if you use something lightweight like 160 GSM, I would double it up. It's not going to be strong enough. I would put it on the inside and the outside. But if you're using something like I've used here for my base, which is 250 GSM, that's going to be perfectly strong enough if you just use a single piece folded in half and glued and stitched to your page. So effectively all you are doing, I hope I'm not labouring this too much, all you're doing is using these connector pieces to go round to connect your cardstock and create the fold that you want. So you have a piece behind there like so, and then your next piece would be on the top going down that side, and your accordion fold, so it would be like going over the top of that. So your accordion fold is as many pages as you want it to be, or your accordion book is as many pages as you want it to be. So I really hope I haven't confused you even more by trying to cover that with you. Okay, I really hope I haven't, but anyway, best of British with all of that. Look, everybody, I'm not a teacher, I'm afraid. I just craft, and it's a little bit hard trying to explain to people sometimes, especially when you've kind of got a limited view. I should have been a lot more organised and got some more connector pages cut out for you, but I think you should be able to get the gist of that. So thanks so much, everybody. Obviously, if you've got any questions and I've confused you to I don't know, where and back, just please leave me a comment and I'll try and help you out as best I can. All right, everybody, take care. Bye bye now.